Yeah, I got it.
All right, we're good. I'm going to call this this public session of the South Bend Empowerment Zone Board at 1:02 p.m. First, I will ask Rosa to do roll call.
We'll start with our board chair, Sam Mentea.
Present.
Ryan Mathis.
Present.
Jeff Ray.
Present.
Sonia Watkins. Here. Leslie Wesley. Virtual leader, right? So absent. Dwayne Wilson.
Present.
Stephanie Ball. She's not here. Karima Fowler. Here. And myself.
Excellent, thank you. Seeing that we have quorum, we'll continue our meeting. The first item on our agenda is I'll entertain a motion around the adoption of our agenda. So moved. Thank you, Jeff. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Dwayne. Any questions, comments, changes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? The one I do actually see, so that passes. I will see there is a typo on the public session of our agenda, and that's about the approval of our meeting minutes. So it is for our September 19th meeting that we are approving board meeting minutes. So I'll entertain a motion around our September 19th meeting minutes that have been provided to the board. So motion to approve. Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Any conversations, comments on the meeting minutes? One comment I'll make is as a quick apology. I know our last meeting, the audio did not stream, so apologies for that. But here is the minutes from that conversation that will go into the public record. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Abstentions? Hearing none, that motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, next up on the agenda is me, board president report. A couple things to report out on. So I know we've got a couple months to celebrate this month. It's Dyslexia Awareness Month, Bullying Prevention Month. And then we recently passed out of Mental Health Awareness Week. I know we've been sharing materials and doing advocacy around all these important topics in our school buildings. And so I thank staff for doing that. The other one, I know we had mentioned it at our last board meeting. I know we're still in Hispanic Heritage Month. And so I'm excited about our event next Tuesday coming up to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month with our families. And looking forward to doing that to help celebrate the end of Hispanic Heritage Month. So excited about that. And then also just to share, the board had an opportunity to tour Harrison today, hosting our meeting here. And so as the board chair and as board members in general, it's just great when we get an opportunity to be in our buildings, interacting with our staff, our teachers, and the students and families that we serve. So that was fantastic. Thank you to the staff who made arrangements for us to be able to be here and to give us tours and to get us around the building. Okay, so that's it for my report. Next up on our list is finance priorities. Is Rhonda online?
I'm here. Dr. Lewis was going to report on this. Dr. Lewis?
Yeah, sure. I can do that. Thank you. Okay, so for business services, this month we are doing an abbreviated report where we'll just talk a little bit about our finance priorities. So first, as I'm sure you are all aware, our revenue is generated by our enrollment. And so enrollment count happens twice a year, first in the fall around the end of September, early October, and then again in early February. And so that determines the funding that we get for the school year. So based on the October count, enrollment was approximately 1,758 students. That reflects a 13% decrease from the last school year. It is somewhat consistent with the larger trends that we are seeing. So South Bend-wide enrollment across the city is down over 6%. And so A part of the decrease on our end as well reflects, which we've talked about before, wanting to be proactive with the facilities master plan and the boundary realignment that will occur in the coming months. We've already begun to make sure that students who were zone students last year are returning to their actual home school. And so you will see that some of that student loss reflects that we have sent students back to their home schools, again, which is a policy that we started talking about back in April. So given the decline in enrollment, the subsequent decline in funds, we've had to make a number of decisions which reflect the priorities for October. The first being we are currently doing a restructuring, restaffing, reorganization to reflect the enrollment. And so I can share that approximately 25 to 35 staff will either be reassigned or positions eliminated, or existing vacant positions will not be filled to reflect that. We're trying to be as thoughtful as possible and to make sure that it is that any such reassignments or eliminations are not happening in classrooms when possible, and if so, that it's not happening in core instructional areas. And then in places where we've made any such cuts or reassignments, we've been intentional and thoughtful to make sure that there are ways for us to continue to meet the needs without a gap being in place because of those changes. I will just also add that in addition to these changes reflecting the current conditions of enrollment, as a reminder, as I've been saying since my very first board meeting last September, that financial decisions would have to be made to reflect the eventual very closely approaching loss in ESSER dollars, et cetera. So we've been proactive in both instances to make sure that we can be financially sustainable and good stewards of public dollars. The next thing that, the next priority for the month of October, as you know, we purchase shared services from our partners, the district. And the costs that we pay for shared services typically reflect our enrollment. And so as our enrollment is approximately 13% less than what we anticipated, we will plan to get, or we've already begun actually starting preliminary conversations around making sure that our cost for shared services for this year reflects our actual enrollment. And so that will help our budget from the expenses side as well. And then finally, as the board is aware, we recently wrapped up the collective bargaining, and we have a tentative agreement. And so it was very important or vital, both for us and our partners on the district side, to have as accurate enrollment as possible so that we could forecast our financial position so that we could engage the union in a meaningful way, whether it was to discuss raises or base salaries or benefits. And so we've done that. We have a tentative agreement. The SBCSC Board of Trustees is expected to vote on said tentative agreement in its November meeting, and then we will subsequently ratify said agreement as well. So those are our financial or just really business services priorities, because I talked a little bit about finance and some personnel moves as well. Any questions or comments?
I have a comment. I just want to commend the zone staff in terms of how they have participated in the process, feedback on the budget, things of that nature, shared services, the teacher agreement, just working with Southland Schools as a partner, but also looking at the future to make sure that we come up with plans that are the necessary plans for the entire district, and not just like looking at one area or zone or just Southland Schools, but really being collaborative in this process. So thank you very much, Davion, Rhonda, and your entire staff. You guys have been great.
Thank you, Karina.
Any other comments on quick finance report? All right, seeing none, we will move on to our focus report. And today we are talking about social emotional learning plan.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Vanessa Davis, the Executive Director of Student Services, and as our board chair, Mr. Centellas has said, I'm going to be speaking with you all about social emotional learning. So before we begin and I get into this presentation, I want to first set the stage for this report. And so I would like you to think about a young person in your life and think about the things that you hope that they will be able to learn or be able to do in order to be successful in their future. So this next slide is giving us reasons why we should prioritize holistic student wellness in schools. And here are just 5 data points as to why social emotional learning is really important. As you see, they're listed from the top 1 in 5 children having a diagnosable mental health challenge, 37% of children with a mental health challenges dropping out of school, 70% of the children in the juvenile justice system having a mental health challenge, and suicide being the 3rd leading cause of death in children aged 10 to 24. And then the last one there, children with untreated mental health challenges perform poorly in school. And so those are some of the things that I'm going to touch on today in this presentation in regards to social emotional learning. So what is social emotional learning? Social and emotional learning is an integral part of education and human development. And as listed there, it is teaching our students to be able to apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes so that they can develop into healthy adults. And so listed there, you have those knowledge, skills, and attitudes, which I'll go a little bit deeper in on the next slide, that social emotional learning tackles within our students. So this slide here shows the social emotional learning framework. And this is Castle's wheel. And it basically helps our schools consider those skills that I mentioned earlier that we need to focus on, and how we can create these supportive environments that promote our students' learning and development. And so if you notice there, they are called the Castle 5 in orange, green, and yellow. And so these 5 core social and emotional competencies can be taught and applied from childhood to adulthood and across diverse cultural contexts. So many school districts, states, and countries, they've used the Castle 5 to establish preschool and high school learning standards and competencies. Here in Indiana, we have the Indiana School Counseling competencies, which include academic, career, and social emotional development competencies. And so if you notice there, the 5 the core competencies are self-awareness, which is teaching our students how to understand their emotions and thoughts, how they influence their actions. It gives them a chance to reflect on their personal and social identities, and also gives them an opportunity to examine some of the biases they may not know that they have. The second one is self-management. We have to teach them how to manage their emotions, their thoughts, and their actions in all types of situations that they're going to encounter, whether it be in school or as an adult. So this is teaching them how to cope with stress, how to be able to use those coping strategies and mechanisms in order to be able to create change, not only within themselves, but for the students and the other people that are around them. The third one is social awareness. That is teaching our students how to understand different perspectives and being able to empathize with others. So also looking at some of the other systems and institutions that have influence on their lives as a whole. Relationship skills is teaching our students the ability to build and maintain connections with others. Are they able to communicate clearly? Are they able to be collaborative? Are they able to use their critical thinking skills in order to solve problems? And why not teach them how to stand up for others? So that's relationship skills. And the fifth one is responsible decision making. So how can we teach our students to make caring and constructive choices for themselves and for others? And so again, critical thinking skills, being able to analyze the things that they do, knowing that for every action there's a reaction, or for however you respond, there could be a consequence. And so just figuring out a way to do it and do it better so that, again, they're a well-rounded person. So on the next slide, this slide is basically talking about evidence of why social emotional learning is important. And so this evidence, well-researched, hundreds of studies that are there, and in these four components of academic, mental health, and skills development, as well as school culture, this is why social emotional learning is very important. And I'll go deeper into that on the next slide. And so academically, social and emotional learning is critical to supporting academic recovery and growth. And again, it's promoting the development of goal setting, problem solving, self-management, responsible decision-making, self-motivation, and all of these things will positively impact students' academic achievement. And so some of those studies that are listed there have shown how social and emotional learning is a very powerful tool for academic achievement, which is why our students are in school. They're here to learn. Next slide. So social and emotional learning, it improves student well-being. And so what I want you all to understand about this slide is that social emotional learning and mental health, they're not the same thing. Social emotional learning increases social and emotional health, and it is a key aspect of mental wellness. And it creates multiple protective factors that act as a shield against risky behaviors and mental health challenges. And when you think about protective factors, social emotional learning is what helps students develop regulating their emotions, the problem-solving skills that I mentioned, and in those environments, it's going to help improve their sense of belonging and the perceptions that they have about themselves, others, and school. It is also, again, important to distinguish that promoting mental wellness is different from treating mental illness. Okay, social emotional learning is not a way of treating or diagnosing mental health conditions. And so when we think about the role of our teachers, the role of our teachers in social emotional learning is building relationships, creating opportunities for all students to learn and practice skills that serve them well, not only in school, but also in life. And so again, social emotional learning does not replace mental health providers or therapeutic responses for children who need them. And so we have many partnerships within the zone that help our students with mental health. So social emotional learning also builds and strengthens skills that lead to positive future outcomes. And so research shows that social and emotional skills like motivation, communication, responsibility, leadership, teamwork, self-discipline, all of those things are linked to positive life outcomes. And these outcomes include what is listed there, educational attainment, success in the workplace, and future earnings. And developing these skills in childhood reduces the likelihood of future violent behavior, crime, and substance abuse. This next slide talks about creating safe and supportive environments. And again, the goal is to promote learning and well-being. And so again, a positive school climate when students are learning social emotional learning strategies. It describes conditions where students and staff feel respected, supported, and engaged. And research shows that positive school climates promote, again, academic achievement, future educational attainment, their mental wellness, and positive relationships. So having positive relationships with students also predicts teachers' occupational well-being according to the study that is listed there. Next slide. So moving towards building a path to success and the link between social emotional learning and young adult outcomes. On the left side of this slide, it shows the longitudinal impact of social emotional learning programming, and it provides helpful data that demonstrates the long-term benefits of social emotional, I should say SEL investments. The right side of the slide shows connections between SEL and future outcomes in school and life. This study, in this case, talking about kindergartners, was controlled. They controlled the socioeconomic status, race and ethnicity, and it was just basically talking about kindergartners' high or low social and emotional competencies and how it predicted their adult outcomes. And so all of these things in helping to change those adult outcomes for our kids can be taught through social emotional learning. So when it comes to beyond the classroom, when we think about adults, research has demonstrated that teachers, educators, administrators, all of our adult staff, they report greater personal well-being and demonstrate greater social emotional competence. They're more likely to be better able to protect themselves from burnout, developing and nurturing relationship with their students. They serve as behavior role models for our children. They learn how to regulate their emotions. So teachers who are trained and supported in implementing social emotional learning for students benefit in many different ways. And some other research about SEL for adults is that it shows that the teachers are reporting greater efficacy for managing student behavior and higher levels of personal accomplishment. They have lower job-related anxiety and depression, higher quality classroom interactions with students, greater teacher engagement, and greater perceived job control. So it helps all the way around. This slide just displays research from stakeholder groups regarding social emotional learning at the top and the return of investment for purchasing SEL curriculum and professional development opportunities. So there is bipartisan support for social and emotional learning, and historically had bipartisan support because it reflects this particular shared goal, and that shared goal is that we all want our children to have healthy relationships and to have the skills they need to achieve their career and life goals and to be caring and responsible members of their communities. So as I've given you some background and a lot of research on social emotional learning, we're going to dive into building resilient minds, which is the social emotional learning plan for the zone. This first slide just gives you the zone's comprehensive SEL plan. And there are 3 key goals from our zone improvement plan that you may have seen that are listed there. And each domain is listed: leadership, learning, and resource. And on the next slide, I'm going to go over and kind of talk about what we are looking to do. So on the first goal that was listed there under the domain of leadership, and thinking about how we're going to unlock the potential and the power of SEL success for our students. The heart of our social emotional learning plan lies within the second step curriculum. It is a tier 1, meaning it's for all students, SEL curriculum. And again, it is designed for all students. As listed there, once we implement it, what is special about this second step curriculum is that it's educator facilitated. The students will experience relevant and real life experiences, and it is also progress monitored to see how well they are doing and reacting to the different things and questions that may arise. And so the remaining 4 bullet points with input from our school admin, our teachers and staff, will help us meet this leadership goal that, again, is not only beneficial to our students, but also our staff. So under the domain for our learning goal, we have a strategic initiative to develop, implement, and monitor this comprehensive resource tracker. And as listed there, we're trying to increase access to local services and enhance the quality of life for our students and families. We're trying to make sure that it is in a centralized platform, and again, ensure that our students and families have the necessary tools to support them so they can thrive both academically and emotionally. And as we know, external resources and services play a very, very, very vital role in supporting the growth and well-being of our students and their families. And on my final slide, this last part is our resource goal. And so as part of our commitment to enhance SEL for our students and their families, we have established our parent resource centers, but we are trying to operationalize them. And again, these are going to serve as centralized hubs, providing parents with easy access to information, support services, and a wide range of valuable resources. The goal is to empower our parents so that they are able to support their children's needs socially and emotionally, as well as academically. I will say that my director of student wellness, who is actually here today, she and I will be attending the National Family Support Network's virtual training on developing and sustaining effective parent advisory committees coming up on October 23rd and 24th. And some of those outcomes that we'll be looking to bring back to the zone is understanding how these parent advisory committees can enhance their work with families and understanding the building blocks of developing and sustaining the effective parent advisory committees. Yesterday, we went to another National Family Support Network webinar, and it was on developing family resource center networks and where do you start. And so I think we have a good start, but again, this particular goal, we're trying to operationalize our parent resource centers, and then we can move to creating a network, which is at least 2 or more parent resource centers. So again, we're trying to strengthen the homeschool partnership and provide parents with valuable resources. I will say we do have our first, and I don't know where that note went in there, but our first one coming up on the 24th of October at Wilson from 6 to 7:30 p.m. for our parents. And there's going to be a presentation through the Portage trustee, as well as Village to Village on trust-based relational intervention. And I will tell you, if you have never seen a presentation about trust-based relational intervention, I firsthand in my previous position as a building principal, it works wonders for social emotional learning, teachers building those relationships with students, and even helping parents be able to better understand their kids and serve them. And so this concludes my focus report on social emotional learning and the zone improvement goals.
Questions?
Yeah, thank you for that information. Especially the end, if maybe I got it somewhere in communications, but the information on that presentation coming up would be great, so we make sure we can attend that. I agree that trust is huge, so I would be very curious to see that. I don't know if this is a question or just observation as well, as I listen to you and read through all this, I don't know where, like, I'll use the terms grit and perseverance might somehow be a part of this. I don't know if that is a part of this anywhere. I just say that in that I think all this stuff is great, but we all know sometimes life's not perfect, and you got to be able to fight through things. So that's just, again, an observation. You're free to give some thoughts if you'd like, but it's an observation as much as anything.
It is there. It's very similar when you think about literacy and you talk about students and their stamina and reading over so that they become fluent. being able to teach these skills to students and giving them opportunities to practice those skills, not only with the adults or the students, will help them be able to do exactly what you're talking about. And they say, or the research says, that when you the more opportunities and experiences that you give students in those types of situations, the more likely they are to jump in and tackle those things.
Thank you.
Yep.
Question on the collaborative partnership part. And so thinking about one, how all of the different areas of our work, right, interlap and interlace with other things, right? So mentioning like the parent resources along with SEL for students, and so how those interact. So thinking about, you mentioning like community organizations, what are some of those partnerships either that we're already looking for, or that how do we help make those connections with organizations that have like mind and want to do similar work and partner with us?
So one of the first things that we wanted to do was we wanted to make sure that each of our schools had a community organization that it was partnered with. And then once you have this list of services and resources, making sure that it is shared out. However, my director of partnership development and athletics, Ryan Yazel here, is really good about going out and questioning and asking, I should say surveying, if I use the correct word, surveying our schools to figure out what is actually needed. And then once he knows what they need, he then goes and searches out those organizations.
Very cool. Well, thank you.
So in that light, I was a little confused with resource tracker.
Okay.
And the parent resource centers, are they like the same? Can you explain a little bit about resource tracker, I guess?
Yeah. So the resource tracker is a list of available resources for parents. So whether it be a service, whether it be trying to think of another word other than resource, but it's where they can go and get information for whatever it is they may need. And we're going to keep track, working with those organizations, how often do our parents use them? Because there may be some that, as we've had, or I should say, as I've heard in our meetings, they may be partners only in name, but we're not necessarily using them. And so the resource tracker will allow us to see what services and get the data on what is being most needed by our parents and our families, where the Parent Resource Center is where our first upcoming, and y'all might have what is it, family? Thank you. Family Empowerment Academy workshop. You will hold those items in there, and then we'll be able to also purchase other resources for parents and families to use that we'll be able to hand out. They may not be available, and also gathering, those items from the community to be able to share, so that they may not have to go all the way downtown. They may not have transportation, but it'll be here at the school for them to come and grab. So there's the difference.
In terms of, I'm sorry, are you talking like in terms of my kids don't have gloves, or we need toothbrushes? Are you talking about stuff like that, or are you talking in terms of something totally different? When you say we'll be able to hand out to them,
I think it's a mix of both. But a Parent Resource Center is teaching parents how to better parent. That's the main goal of a Parent Resource Center, giving them the tools and the strategy they need so that when their students do come here, they're able to behave appropriately in this setting. So the social workers, our family and community school specialists would do the backpacks, the gloves, the hats, and the coats. It's part of it, which we want our FACs to run the Parent Resource Center as part of their job description there. But it's a little bit more for our the adult members of our families.
So a comment on that is, so I'm understanding you don't currently have a parent resource center.
No,
correct?
all schools have it. Now, is it fully operationalized like I wanted it to be? No, I will say there is an order. And so there's shelving that has been ordered. There's going to be food that will be in there for them to go out, the washers and the dryers, the refrigerators. There will be all of those things will be in there. Each school has a designated space. And I do know right now that there's a small bottleneck with this order that Ryan has put in, but we are working to get that because we have started on this last year. We didn't get where we wanted to go, but we're further along right now than we were last year.
So is part of this like having like workshops for families? that
Absolutely.
Is according to their needs, not what we think they need, but what you survey them to say, I need assistance with homework. How do I, something in that order. Is that kind of some of the things?
It's a mix because there are some things that our parents need to know. When you think of like Power School, even the first, I should say, it wasn't a student services one, but even with our orientations that they had, just basic school information. There's things that they need to know that they may not necessarily ask for. And so we have to provide that information so they know where to go, even though on some of them, yes, it will be, because it's better to be able to provide the support to parents for things that they need instead of just giving them things, because then it's just, yeah.
So helping them to be resourceful.
Basic, yep, that's it.
What's the first session topic?
The first session topic is going to be on a presentation from the Portage Township trustee, and I'm trying to remember at the bottom. I got the TBR down.
Yeah, so each of these workshops is going to have a resource moment where a community resource partner is going to come in and do a 15-minute kind of announcement presentation of resources that are available, followed by the meat of the workshop. And this one is TBRI, so Village to Village is a presenter on trust-based relational intervention. So they'll be there teaching correction with connection, how to work with your students, especially when they're experiencing emotional dysregulation, how to walk with them through the middle of that and still parent.
Potentially, if you haven't, can you share any of the other upcoming sessions that you're working on?
Absolutely, we can share those. The announcement for this one is scheduled to go out on Monday.
So I think I would say one of the other things that we were looking into, I believe his name is Mr. North, it's with the K, got an interesting email. And so one of the things that I shared with my team members, and I think it was in one of your board meeting newsletters, there's a program to where they can offer more money for our parents and families who receive Medicaid and Medicare. So additional $125 to $150, as well as some other monies for other services, like the water bill and the light bill. And so trying to get him in to do a presentation, but not kind of in my position, overstepping with my team, making sure that it fits on the calendar the way that they want it to go. So that's one other one that I can give you right now.
Can I clarify one more thing about the resource tracker? We had a great meeting with the United Way earlier, and they have their one roof resource centers around. The United Way has been fantastic, and they're willing to share, and they have shared their database of community resources with us. Barry and Sam were really helpful in that. So they're willing to train our fax workers once we have our family resource rooms up and running. So they will train our fax workers on how to access those databases. So any family that comes in and expresses their need, our fax workers will have the database at their fingertips, be able to look up, find out exactly the best source for them to go to for whatever the need is.
That's excellent.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan, for saying that. Because I think being part of this community for years, I think we're very resource rich. And a lot of you guys know from, having community meetings, but it's the access piece and also communicating out to the parents. I'd love to see, your how many people actually show up, right? I mean, we all know, having to do this for many years, like you need food and you need to offer childcare, something, because now you've got time and all that is a barrier too, So I'm sure you've thought it through, but I want to make sure that we really understand and share resources, because we're not really good at doing that sometimes. So I'm glad you mentioned United Way.
I like the idea of how you guys are handling this, because I recognize that for some families, some of these things are kind of overwhelming. You know, like you said, we're very resourceful, but where do you start? So I really like your approach and kind of breaking it down and bringing the groups together in the individual schools, because the families know each other, and once you know each other, you trust each other, it's more likely you can depend on each other to learn from each other. So I really appreciate what you're doing.
Seeing no other comments, thank you very much for that presentation. And we will, next up on our agenda is public comment. I don't know if I've got my thing to read here. Is there anybody here that is here to make public comment? Seeing none, I won't read my thing related to public comment then. And then the last part of that is just board communication. So next public session of the board will be November 11th at 6 p.m. Also a reminder for the board, the Hispanic Heritage Month program next Tuesday, and or other things that I know have been sent to our calendar for ways to engage in the schools. I know it's always a great opportunity for us to do that when we have time. Thank you, Dr. Lewis and staff and team for putting together our meeting today. And with that, seeing. Meeting clarification.
21st.
Yeah, the 21st.
Okay. So yeah, correction for the official record here that it is November 21 is our next board meeting. So we'll make sure that's correctly reflected on the website. Probably just a typo here on the agenda. Thank you, Jeff, for catching that. And with that, now I'll actually adjourn our meeting at 1:43 p.m. Thank you.